All right, so we're starting off with limits today. This is the last thing we're going to do probably, is an introduction to calculus, which will be limits, derivatives, antiderivatives, and integrals. I'll probably give three or four little quizzes in between, and we'll be done with this year. Anyway, limits. This part of limits is pretty easy. It's direct evaluation. And what you're doing when you're doing a limit is when you put this equation and you graph it, what number does the graph head towards when the x approaches 0? So here, this is pretty easy. There's some here that are a little bit harder because you need to get your unit circle out again. But if I were to put this 0 and plug it into that equation, that would wipe out that, and my answer would be -1/2. You're just plugging in the 0 into the equation. So now when we have cotangent or cosine or something like that, like number 2, they're telling us that x is pi over 4. Well, pi over 4 is 45 degrees. So the limit is going to be a -2 times the cotangent of 45 degrees. Well, if you look at your unit of 2 times 45 degrees. So that would be -2 times the cotangent of 90 degrees. Okay? So the tangent of 90 is undefined, which means the cotangent of 90 is the reciprocal of undefined, which is 0. So it's -2 times 0, which is 0. There's your answer there. Number 3 is real hard. You plug in a 5 in for that, and it would be -5. Number 4, your x is -pi, which is -180. So it's going to be -2 times the sine of -360, which, by the way, is the same as 360. And the sine of 360 is 0. So it's -2 times 0 equals 0. Okay, so the next one's a little more complicated because it's got negative angles, but you guys know how to get them out of the woods and put them in positive form. So the x is -pi over 3, which is -60. You can look at your unit circle for that. I don't want decimals for these. I want you to find the actual radical form so that when you put it in the equation, you get a radical form answer if needed. So we have the limit of 2 cosine, and if it's -60, then that's going to be times 2 is -120, which is 2 times the cosine of 240 when you get it out of the woods, and the cosine of 240 is -1/2. So that gives us a -1. This next one is super easy. We would put in a -3 plus 3, which would give us a 0. And the last one, there's different ways to do this. You can plug it in manually, or you can put this into your calculator, into your y equals screen, and see what the value of y is when x is 1. It's especially important to do that when there's negatives involved, so you don't get confused, but you don't have to. So this one would be, we're going to plug in a 1 everywhere. So that's -1 squared is 1 over 2, minus 2 times 1 is 2, minus 4. So we get that it's -6.5 or -13 over 2. I'll take either one of those because they're clean decimals. Okay? If any of these have radical answers on your homework, make sure you put them in radical form. Just let the math take you there, and call me if you have any questions. Thank you.